This is a character design exercise in which I am improvising both the role of the interviewer and the role of the creature being interviewed. Characters with the most likes and views will be animated and made into a lo-fi album. What is your name? Bayleath. And what kind of being are you? I'm a gnome who's a little bit smaller than a squirrel and a bit taller than a chipmunk. And I currently have dedicated myself to the practice of meditation. Before that, I was traveling a lot and I was meeting with as many wise beings as I could find. Um, as for my appearance, I'm sort of insectoid. I have 4 arms and 2 legs and a lot of, like I said, a lot of mushrooms growing on me. I didn't always have mushrooms growing all over me. Um, that's sort of just because I've been meditating for so long. But yeah, we usually have a little red cap or something. That's occasional. We have all sorts of different color caps. Traditionally, we're depicted with a red cap, but we have all sorts of clothing that we enjoy to wear. We like to make a statement, but the clothing is usually matches our demeanor. So sort of joyful and jolly and good natured. We like to wear some bright clothing. It's either we're blending it in with the trees, so browns, or we're wearing something that stands out from the trees, or matches some of our favorite foliage. We love to wear red and green, and we find bird eggs to be so precious and beautiful. So we might wear robin eggs blue or anything like that. We take inspiration from the colors that we see in nature. That's sort of our appearance generally. As a child, I was one of 8. I was the 7th born, and I lived in a pine forest with my family at the root, at the base of a tree. Home sort of nestled into the visions of the tree and into the root system. I had a lot of friends, gnome friends, who lived in other trees, animal friends, like the squirrels and chipmunks. And then I had friends who lived in the sky and in the water, so the sylphs and the undines. We would go and play on the boats with the undines. We'd go on adventures down the river, and then sylphs would fly down with the winds and play in the forest with us. Sometimes the sylphs and undines would venture into the tunnels of the gnomes. We would go through all the dark capillaries, all the dark tunnel systems. It was a lot of fun. They were very scared. I wasn't scared. I knew what was down there, but they were very frightened. They've never seen so little light. Light only coming from a lantern, especially a sylph. A sylph is always accustomed to light. The light of the moon, the sun, the stars, and the light on the earth produced by cities and towns and villages, reflecting up into the sky. So it was very, very scary to be in the ground where there's no light. But we would usually retreat back to our home, to the gnome home, and we would play charades and draw and tell stories and things like that. And we would always play board games, usually something along the lines of chess or checkers with the salamander fire friends. And they would they would arrive through the hearth, and they would usually stay in the hearth. It would get too hot not having some sort of ventilation. So if they were in the room, it would be a bit stifling. And they were very wonderful. They were very good at any strategy games. They had a lot of foresight. They could understand change very quickly. Anyway, that was my childhood. But now I actually live on a parlor wall. I've been in Jana for so long now that some witch has found me and thinking that I had passed away and dried up. And I have all this mushroom growing on me. And from what I hear, the mushrooms that grow on me year by year sort of predict what kind of year it will be. So right now I have fly agara growing on me, which is an indication of travel, a balance between risk and caution, fantasy. It's a it's very magical, but sort of dangerous. So that's the year, the coming year, the prediction for the coming year of 2025. Anyway, I'm on this parlor wall in a shadow box. I really don't mind because I haven't much use for the world at this point. I'm thoroughly enjoying my time in jhana. I'm so absorbed in concentration of my meditation pursuits. So after I end this interview with you, I will just go back to jhana and it's fine. And I am honestly a bit flattered that this um, this witch has thought me pretty enough to be on her wall. But the choice in wallpaper is a bit unsightly. So I do rather close my eyes. I'd rather not be looking at this living room. But I don't mind talking to you. Anyway, it's okay. I'm fine on this wall. At least I'm safe. It's actually kind of nice. Sort of like a protective place for me to be in meditation. But okay, so back to my childhood. Actually, so childhood was fantastic. Got in a lot of trouble with the Undines, taking the boats down the river and getting lost or shipwrecked. But we always got out of danger. And the sylphs were very magical. They lived in a village in the sky. And it was so beautiful. And everything there is not really produced by a material, but by density, by organizing the molecules in certain ways to sort of crystallize down, but in a way that it could all float still in the air, in the skies. But most of the time, they were just dancing. And we would go and dance with them. And it was a bit scary because sometimes they let us free fall, but then they pick us back up and they fly around. It was very dangerous, but we were aware of how scary it was, but we weren't really aware of danger. And so we really had a fabulous time with the sylphs. And then I'd like to tell you about something that happened to our community when I was a young adult. So after childhood, we had a terrible fire in the forest. We had a forest fire and all the pines burnt down. And this devastated the community. The community didn't really recover in the same way. I mean, now that pine forest has grown again and there's, neighborhoods of little gnome families have reclaimed the forest. But something changed within me where I could no longer accept the joy at face value. I had to understand how such a beautiful thing ended. And now, after I realized that endings were possible, I went on a journey. I went to see the rock people in the deep earth, the stone beings, and I asked them about what they learned through time, through the aeons. And to them, change was inconsequential. They had arisen from the depths of the soil and been buried back into the soil so many times. They had seen so many new religions and so many civilizations come and go that nothing seemed particularly out of the ordinary in regard to change. And then I went to the sun people. the wisest of the salamanders. And I asked them too what they thought of endings. And they said that they saw change happen so quickly within themselves and in their environment. The flickering of fire so fast, so rapid, and so inconsequential that they too were very much unfazed by change and understood change as natural, as inevitable. So, this great tragedy in my life that changed me so deeply was sort of a pivoting point, a point where I asked the question in order to receive the answer and to understand it in my heart. And that's when I started to meditate. And I've taken meditation very seriously. And there's great joys in my realm. I'm not particularly interested in them, and I'm happy to meditate. Well, I'm going to resume my meditation on this parlor wall, and I hope that you have a happy and a peaceful day. Oh, yes, thank you for the interview. Thank you, and be well. Be well.